All right, friends. Well, I'm so excited to welcome back Vanessa Fraser to the podcast. Welcome to the show, Vanessa.
Hi, Lindsay. Good to see you.
So good to see you. I am so excited for you, by the way. Um, Dog Mile 431. Hello.
It was so much fun. It was literally the most fun I've had in a race in a really long time. And I've been looking forward to this for a very long time too. So it was just, yeah, very special to finally do an official race with my dog.
Wait, so is this because I read somewhere, is it an unofficial world record? Because it wasn't like you didn't sign all the documents and fill out all the forms to make it happen or something?
Yeah, I think just because there's no real documentation of the event, there's been, multiple formal dog miles historically, which is what we're going off of. Okay, from all the races that we can find for all women who have ever done a dog mile in an official race setting, my time is the fastest, but I know people who have done time trials that have been faster and the sport is very popular in Europe. They usually race on a trail and they usually race longer than a mile. So I know those athletes typically run very fast too. So it's unofficial in that sense, but official in the sense of the record books of actual dog miles that have been held on, it was a USATF certified course. There was a USATF official at the finish line, all of that, to our knowledge, fastest ever recorded.
Okay, this is so interesting. So this race specifically was a dog mile. Okay. And where did you find out about it? Is it new?
So, I raced, there's a road mile in LA called Abbot Kinney 1 that's been going on for a few years. And I raced in that race 2 years ago in just the normal, women's elite field in the road mile. But they had a dog mile heat at that event. And my friend did it with her dog and they ran really fast. They ran like a 5:01
Oh, that's fast.
and it looked so fun. And so that was kind of the first one I saw in person. And then there used to be one, I think in Santa Barbara, I forget the name of it, that was like the unofficial Dog Mile World Championships, and they haven't held it for a few years, but I had known about that. And basically, for the last year, I had been wanting to do like a formal recorded dog mile with my dog, and just so happened to get connected with the Trials of Miles team who was planning to do this SF mile already, just like as an event in San Francisco and have the elite field and everything. So I got connected with them about 6 months ago and sort of proposed the idea. Like San Francisco is such a big dog city too, of we should do a dog mile heat. And I'll help be involved with some of the promotional videos and everything and try to set this unofficial world record. I did actually apply for a Guinness World Record back in December, but that did not get accepted because I think there's a lot of really strict legal rules about having animals involved in world records. So it didn't look
Oh.
like Guinness would be able to recognize it, which makes sense. I totally understand that. So yeah, unofficial it is.
Wait, so they don't let because of humane issues? They want to make sure you're not abusing the
Yeah.
dog?
Like animal safety. Yeah, they don't
Okay.
have a way to regulate the
Sure.
safety for
What's
the
the breed? Is
animal.
this a dog that can handle that?
Yeah, what's their health status? Are you pushing them to do something that's not good for
Yeah.
them, or which is something I'm already super concerned about as a very attentive dog mom. So
Yeah.
I was mostly worried about that, which to me I was going into the race just thinking I just hope she has a good time and that this is fun for her and that
Yeah.
she's doesn't feel pressure to do anything, but she had a great time.
Oh my gosh. Tell us a little bit about your dog. How old is she? Gigi, right?
Yeah, Gigi. Gigi is 3.
Okay.
Um, I adopted her from a local SPCA 3 years ago. She was 9 weeks old when I adopted her. And I had wanted a dog for a while. I specifically wanted a Vizsla because I knew that those were great running dogs and I wanted a good running dog. But I also wanted to look at adoption options at local shelters too. So I vividly remember I was actually FaceTiming with Jess McLean and simultaneously just scrolling through, I think it's petfinder.com, where you can filter like a 500-mile radius or whatever radius you want. I think I set it to 100 miles of all, shelter dogs, basically. And I'm scrolling through and I see Gigi's face, but her name at the shelter was Bonnie. And it felt really meant to be because Jess's dog's name is Clyde. And I'm talking to Jess and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just found the Bonnie to your Clyde. And she's a German Shorthair Pointer Doberman mix, which are also both breeds that I always thought were really cool. And basically she looks like a dark chocolate brown colored Vizsla. And just her face immediately, I'm like, this is the one. It's meant to be. Like, I'm talking to Jess right now. I found the Bonnie to her Clyde and picked her up the next day.
That's so interesting because Jess also works for a nonprofit that helps rescue animals, dogs.
Yes.
Okay. Wait, so is that why you were talking to her specifically about it? Because you just wanted information about like rescue dogs, or you guys are just tight from running together and all that?
Yeah, we're just really close. And I knew she would support, I knew she would support me getting a dog. I think like my mom was a little worried about it because it is a lot of responsibility.
It's a lot, yeah.
My boyfriend was a little hesitant, which of course, like, he's come around, to loving the dog just as much. But yeah, it is a big decision. I'm like, Jess is gonna be my yes girl. Like,
yes. Oh, but wait, I actually also really do love the name Bonnie for a dog. I think that's cute too.
No,
but we support
really
Gigi.
Cute. Yeah, I thought about keeping Bonnie.
Bonnie's cute.
Yeah, it is really cute.
Oh, I love this so much. So I didn't realize that you had like your hand in like actually helping make this dog mile happen.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to take too much credit.
No, but like
organization. But yes, we were kind of coordinating for a while, and one of my sponsors, Zico Coconut Water, became involved as well and ended up sponsoring the entire event.
Nice.
So they were also kind of played a role in making it happen and coordinating some of the efforts ahead of time. So
I think this is a really important conversation to have because like you've been a pro for a long time and you've had like some health struggles and things that have popped up that weren't in your plans for a professional runner.
yeah.
And you are just about to like really hardcore dedicate yourself to the roads. And we're going to talk about that. But I think it's important to talk about the fact that you were like, I want to do something fun. I want to do something with my dog. I still want to do something that's hard, but it seems like a lightening of the mood kind of situation.
Yes, definitely. And it was just it's always fun to work toward a goal where you have absolutely like no baseline to compare to. Like, I had no idea what we were capable of in a mile. And, I had an idea of what could happen on the best case scenario, but like, it didn't matter. So also going into a race where there's just no expectation, no baseline of comparison, and it's fun. And honestly, like, it sounds kind of crazy because it's an animal, but like it really felt like a team event. And it's just like, you just don't get the feeling of being on a team very often, if at all, as a pro. And I just miss that of feeling like, wow, we had this true partnership of, both of our efforts really mattering and coming together and making it happen together. It is just the most amazing feeling that I miss so much from college. Like, the distance medley relay days and cross country and all that. It's just, difficult to replicate at the professional level. So that part was really, really fun too.
Okay, I swear we're going to move on from the dog, but I do have one more dog question.
I could talk about her all day.
Oh, I bet. How much do you run with her? And then also like, do you typically run like easy days with her? Because you had to like get her in the mode to be able to run that fast.
Yeah, funny enough, I actually don't run with her very often. My dream was to have a dog that could run with me every day, 8 to 10 miles, and it's just not her thing. She just doesn't enjoy going for like a longer run.
Okay.
But she does enjoy like short spurts and sprints. especially if she has like a motivating reason. So what we will do sometimes, like when I'm doing strides at the end of the run, um, I'll like put on our pulling harness setup, which is what we wore for the race, and have my boyfriend go stand like 100 meters away. And then and it's like a fun game for her. And then I'll be like, okay, go catch him.
Fun.
And she'll just lock in and run so fast. And, like she's really pulling me when she's going that speed. And it's just fun. You just feel like you're flying. Sometimes she'll come out for a double here or there. But yeah, just not as much as I had hoped, which is totally fine. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
she just doesn't enjoy it. She just kind of gets bored, I think, with the longer run.
Who was pushing who in the mile though?
She was definitely pushing me for the first half, or I should say pulling me.
Yeah.
We went out really fast, and I mean that's the thing too. I think she's like a sprinter mid-distance runner.
Okay.
So that's how you run mid-distance, right? You go out really hard and then you try to hang on. And then she started to die about 800 meters in, and so she was still ahead of me the whole time, but there was not tension in the leash anymore. So
Yeah.
I wasn't getting any help that second
Uh-huh.
800 meters.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And were you like, come on, let's go, let's go? Did you have to kind of like egg her
Uh,
on at the end?
I didn't really have the breath to do so, but like I
You're
was
like, we
definitely
did run
working
a
hard.
4:31, Lindsay.
Yeah. But I still had to move my legs that fast, even though she was pulling me for the first half.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but there were a couple lead bikers for the race that were a bit ahead, and then they ended up letting my boyfriend also join the lead bike pack,
Fun.
which helped a lot. So I know he kind of called back at her a couple
Oh,
times to
nice.
encourage her. So that was
Oh.
really helpful.
Oh my gosh, I love it. How long have you and your boyfriend been together and where did you meet?
We've been together, oh gosh, 5.5 years.
Okay.
We met in college, but didn't start dating till a couple years after college, during kind of the end of COVID. We just reconnected on a trip in New York. He was living in New York at the time, and we have a really close mutual friend, also from college, who was kind of the reconnecting link there. But yeah, and then ever since then, we did distance for like a year, and then when I moved to San Francisco, we both moved to San Francisco.
Nice. So you mentioned the team aspect of running with your dog. And so
Mhm.
I think it would be fun to talk about teams. So you were in that, like, would we call it like the second crop of Bowerman women that came
Mhm,
through that
mhm.
team? I mean, I guess the very first crop would have been Shalane,
Yeah.
Amy. Was Amy there for a
Yeah.
little bit?
Yeah.
Yep. And then
Emily.
the
Yeah.
second, and then Emily kind of jumped in, and then like Colleen and Shelby and
Yeah.
Courtney, and then you and Elise were like that
Yeah.
next crop. Okay.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Carissa,
Exactly. Mhm. Mhm.
talk to
Yeah.
us about like that phase of life and like transitioning out of being with that team and how you managed that and how you decided like what direction to go after that.
Yeah. I know I always think of like that phase. I think the Bowerman golden years started before I got there, right? Like pretty much everyone making the 2016 Olympic team that
Yeah.
like really put Bowerman on the map. And then I joined in 2018 and the team kind of just kept growing. And I feel like from 2018 to 2021 was like the ultimate Bowerman golden
Yeah.
years. Like it was just so incredible to be a part of that group. And, there were ups and downs for sure within that time period, but at some point, everybody on the team had like the best race of their life up to that point, like during that period. And just so special to witness other people having, big breakthroughs, to experience that myself. Again, of course, there were also like disappointing moments and, injuries and things like that that make it difficult, but that's, part of the sport. And then in 2022, I moved to San Francisco, largely because I think I had been kind of feeling frustrated for a little while, just not running to the level that I expected of myself and that I felt like, everybody else was kind of
Mm.
achieving on the team, which is always hard. But I was reached out to out of the blue on LinkedIn from a recruiter who was recruiting for this job that was kind of like a dream job for me, that I felt like just one of those things, kind of like finding Gigi online, like one of those just serendipitous things. It was like, whoa, this just feels meant to be. Like, this is my exact dream scenario of kind of what I want to do post running, which honestly has evolved a lot since then. And I think that's part of taking opportunities and learning is, that evolves over time. But, at the time it was this amazing opportunity that I felt like I couldn't pass up, and I was feeling a little stuck in my running. So it just made sense to make the leap. It was a really hard decision. It's super hard to leave Bowerman, when that feels like, that was also a dream. But I think sometimes you like take a leap one step before you're really fully ready. And that's sort of what it felt like is like, this is the direction that I want to go. And I kind of need to push myself to make this change because I'm feeling like I'm just banging my head against a wall a little bit with just results wise with my running. So wanted to make that change. I also had been so inspired by women in the sport, paving their own paths, finding success in different ways, building their life, or rather building running around their life versus building their life around running, and kind of being inspired by that. So, I thought, wow, if I take more of a balanced approach to running and kind of fulfill myself in ways outside of the sport, like, maybe I will actually be more successful. And to be honest, like that kind of didn't really pan out or hasn't really panned out exactly how, in my dream vision was I'm going to just be thriving in every aspect of life, and every aspect of life is going to enhance the other. And not to say that it can't be that way, but just I think other compounding variables with health stuff too kind of got in the way. But just in general, it is very hard to balance two different careers and
Mm.
all the things that come with just adulting in general. Like it's just a lot. So I would say from a results perspective hasn't fully panned out with running, but I learned a lot career wise from the
Wow.
experiences. Yeah.
Okay. Gosh, there's so much to unpack there.
I
So much to
know.
unpack there. Wow. First of all, the job.
Hmm.
So, like, the recruiter reaches out to you on LinkedIn, and because they knew what you went to school for, because like you hadn't had experience in the industry yet.
Yeah. Partially because my boss who was hiring for the role specifically wanted to hire an elite runner. Um,
Interesting.
and it somewhat comes from a bias of like he enjoys running himself. His wife was a collegiate runner. So he has that perspective, but what he wanted in an employee was what he has seen in elite runners, specifically distance runners, which is just, that high level of discipline and drive. And now having been in the corporate world for 4 years, 2 years in that role and 2 years in another role, so two different experiences, I can really see why it is so appealing to hire an athlete, and just
Yeah.
how many transferable skills come from being an athlete, but specifically a distance runner. Like I really do see how much that applies to the working world, and how much, even though you don't have traditional work experience, it can be a huge benefit and value. So that was actually the main reason. And then also like connections of what I studied at Stanford, and he had gone to
Yeah.
Stanford. So that was another piece of it. But yeah, just one of those things like, whoa, he had this exact archetype in mind, and the recruiter just somehow filtered for that and found me. It was just all very kind of wild and serendipitous.
I love that you decided to make a change when things weren't panning out exactly how you thought they might or hoped they might. And I wonder if you can talk about like reckoning with that part of your career when like you were saying, like if you're seeing other people achieve these goals that like you wanted to be achieving, or like you weren't quite hitting the marks that you wanted to be hitting, how did you walk through that?
Yeah, it's a really hard balance, right? Because I also think we're so programmed as athletes to never give up. to just stay the course, trust the process, continue to put in the work even when you're not seeing results. Stay committed to a plan, right? So there's an element of that that's really important that made that decision very hard
Mm,
because that was the first big change I had made in my professional career post college. And I'm thinking, is this just me kind of giving up on
hmm.
the situation that was a dream and is a dream, but at the same time, like, how do you reconcile with something that maybe isn't serving you anymore, but also being, very committed and resilient and, picking yourself back up after failure after failure. So I definitely relied on conversations with mentors and friends and family who really know me well to kind of navigate that decision because I was really struggling with feeling like, oh man, am I just giving up by
Mm.
leaving this situation? And that's why I think sometimes like making a change is more courageous in certain scenarios because it is sometimes easier to just stay in a situation and to have faith that it's going to work out. But I think that yeah, there are situations where you need to just make a change because something's not working, and that's okay too.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be like this is a forever change.
Yeah, yeah,
This is right now. This is what I'm doing right now. And might
yeah,
not be what I'm doing in 2 years or 5 years, but like right now,
yes.
this is good for me.
Exactly, and just recognizing that, as a person, you're changing and evolving year over year. So who I was, when I first joined the team was a very different person than who I was 4 years into that experience. And so, like, making sure that a situation is evolving with you as a person and making sure you're listening to that too.
Okay, I have a two-sided question. I'm going to ask you what was the best part about being on Bowerman and what was the hardest part about being on Bowerman.
Um
However much you're willing to share.
No, I mean, the best part was definitely the people. The coaching staff, the teammates, like the support staff, everything about the setup was truly the best of the best in terms of being at the top of their game, but also in terms of just being great, supportive people to have in your corner. Some of my closest friendships are still teammates from Bowerman, who, some of which were also teammates at Stanford, like Elise,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
just I'm still so close with all of those people who I was teammates there with, and it felt like, largely a very, very supportive environment. I think the hardest part is when you do go to those more high stakes races, like an Olympic trials, and you aren't exactly teammates in, the race itself, like it
Sure.
is still an individual pursuit, and everybody has really high goals for that race, and we really support each other and we're happy for each other when somebody has success and we don't. But at the same time, I just think that that's hard. Like,
Yeah.
I don't enjoy having to compete against some of my best friends. I don't. It's just
Hmm.
a part of the game, but I don't enjoy that. And I think, like, specifically the 2021 Olympic trials were really hard. I was 1 year post double Achilles surgery and
Wow.
just kind of in a different place fitness wise. But when you go into a race like that, like, you have to gaslight yourself that you are exactly where you need to be and that, anything could happen, right? But I do remember this moment of Elise and Carissa having a huddle with Jerry, like, kind of 20 feet away from the
Mm,
tent, like 20 minutes before we're warming up. And I'm seeing them have this huddle and, and it's nothing against any of them. Like, it's just they were having a pre-race conversation that didn't involve me and some of the other athletes. And it's
yeah.
kind of being in that environment where you realize, like, oh yeah, I can't really ignore the fact that there are athletes who were way ahead of me in every single workout the last 2 months, and I'm not exactly where I wanna be, but something about that visual of, right before a warm up, seeing that and then trying to tell yourself that anything is possible,
Yeah.
it's a hard, hard dynamic when there are that many, really elite competitive people on the same team, and you're teammates in a sense, but you're also not teammates in another sense.
Yeah, that is so hard. And I feel like in any career, there's this climb to want to be on the top, and only
Mhm.
so many people make it to that very top. And it's like, how much of your soul do you give to climbing and climbing and trying to be there? And I imagine that situation felt very disheartening, regardless of anything. Nothing was like intentional to make you feel left out or anything, but it's just like
No.
almost like an outside looking in feeling
Yes.
like, I want that. Like, what are you saying to them? I want to be a part of that
100%.
conversation.
100%. But at the same time, I know I'm not in that same place
Yeah.
fitness. So, like, I understand why they were having a separate, race plan in
Yeah.
this conversation. But yeah, to your point, it doesn't make it any easier. And I think also to your point, it is so true. Like, there are only so many spaces at the top within certain environments, but I think that's also why it's important to kind of continue to push for change within your own situation of, okay, maybe there's not, I'm not getting to where I want to be in this situation, but I could get to the top of a different situation and I can
Mm.
write my own story. So it's important not to try to fit, the mold and follow in the steps of exactly how someone else is getting to the top, but I can get to, my own top, but maybe it's going to have to be in a different, environment or in a different way and kind of like figuring out what, that own individual top is for yourself.
Are you all listening? This is good stuff. This is good stuff.
I'm still climbing though. I definitely haven't reached it, but
No,
I'm
she's
still
climbing.
climbing.
Girl's about to light something on fire. Yeah, the double Achilles. Oh man, that was 2020.
Yeah, so I think we
Dude,
must
that's
have
big.
I know. We must have I can't remember when exactly we chatted, but it would have been before
It
that
would
was
have
the
been
last
before.
the
Yeah.
podcast.
You
Yeah.
you must have come on my podcast, which is crazy that it's been this many years. I bet you came on pretty freshly after joining Bowerman.
Yeah, I would think so.
Because there
Yeah.
was a time where I was like, anytime there was new additions to Bowerman, I was like, oh, I want to interview all the team because I was like, I was super riding hard for that team and such a fan. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think I probably would have interviewed like you and Carissa and Elise probably like all around
Yep.
that same time. And then I got to see you at Big Sur this year, which was so fun. Noah
I
Drawdy whispers to
know.
me and he's like, is that Vanessa Fraser? I think that's Vanessa Fraser. You just like randomly slipped into the relay field at Big Sur, which was so fun.
Yes, that was such a random appearance, but was so much fun and so fun to see you there.
So fun. Okay. So after Bowerman, you go with Team Boss for a little bit.
Mhm.
Tell us about that situation.
Team Boss was also amazing, like very similar in the sense of just, you know, upper echelon, high achievers in the sport, people that I want to surround myself that I aspire, to be like in my own way, of course, like I said, kind of finding my own version of the top. But yeah, just wanting to surround myself with people doing things in the sport that I also wanted to do and having really respected, what a lot of those athletes had done, and also it was a great kind of hybrid situation where Joe was willing to coach me
Mm.
partially remotely and that I had complete flexibility to go do training camps up there whenever I wanted to. And, that felt like the perfect setup, the dream of this balance of being in a team, but also like being able to have a little more control and autonomy over my own schedule. And it's like my life is in San Francisco, but I can go do camps in Boulder. And honestly, like it was so much fun. All the camps I did up there, I had a blast. It kind of like did remind me of Bowerman days, but again, getting
Mm.
the best of both worlds and that I could also have a life outside of running. And running didn't feel like such a heavy weight if it wasn't going well because I had this other life to come back to, in the Bay Area. I think like the biggest letdown of that year was well, first of all, I technically qualified for the Olympic marathon trials with a half marathon time.
Oh, with the
So,
111?
yes, so there was a thought in my mind at one point like
Ah.
I'll go debut in the marathon at
Oh
the
my
trials
gosh.
no expectations, but, what a fun experience that would be. And that was the year I started to have some of these health issues with my throat, which really inhibited my ability to fuel, and it became very clear, like, I was
Oh,
not gonna be able to do a marathon if I can't take in
yeah.
gels. And Joe was really excited about my ability on the track too, and he always kind of more pushed me toward the track just because he's like, "I think, physiologically, that's where you're best suited at that time." So kind of went all in on trying to qualify for the trials in the 5K. And then I didn't end up qualifying even for the trials in the 5K. And that was really, really disappointing,
Mm,
to go from having run as fast as I have in the 5K to not even making it to the trials after having qualified for the marathon trials was like a few kicks in the gut for sure. And, I think variety of factors, including that the health issue that I was still dealing with, definitely still impacted me. Even though a 5K it is a bit easier to manage compared to a marathon. Yeah, I think after that season, I did have a really fun, like, solid 5K in Paris, and that was probably a highlight of the year and getting to hang out with the team a little bit in Paris, but, not the Paris Olympics, a Paris race that was, like, a month before the Olympics, but, yeah, I just kind of realized, like, I needed to take a step back and figure out the health issue, and just yeah, mostly just felt like I needed to kind of do my own thing to figure out everything that was going on from a health perspective and, just kind of pick myself back up after the disappointment of not even making it to the trials.
yeah. How did you handle that? Like, gosh, did you watch the trials? Like, what did you do?
Yeah, I did watch the trials. I mean, especially because, again, like, some of my best friends were competing and I'm, like, always gonna ride for them,
Mm,
and truly wholeheartedly, like, feel like their success is completely separate from my disappointment, like, that does not conflate at all, but in part, and this, like, sounds kind of a little backwards just because, like, I wanted to be at the trials, obviously, and I never wanna, diminish that opportunity, but I do think there was an element of relief of, like, well, at least I'm not there having the disappointment of finishing so far off where I wanna be. And that's kind of a hard thing to admit because it's like, of course, I wanna be there, but at the same time, like, that is the reality of a lot of my experiences that I've had at some of these US championships is, like, I think I've been 12th or 13th, like, 5 times, which is still, great. I'm still 12th in the country. Yes,
yeah.
I want to be happy about that, and yes, that's, like, progress to even be out there and whatever, but the reality is, like, that is far off of my expectations of myself and what I believe I'm capable of, so that's also hard when you finish in that position kind of year after year. And so I think a part of me was, like, relieved, well, at least I don't have to deal with the disappointment, or the embarrassment, which I know
Hmm.
that sounds crazy, but there is embarrassment as an
Yeah.
athlete when you feel like other people expect high things of you to finish in that position and feel like you let other people down. That's just the reality of it. So there wa there was an element of relief watching the trials, to be honest.
I imagine. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have to explain this health condition. I read about it, but you'll explain it better than me. And it's sounds so wildly annoying.
Yes. It is. It's so annoying, and just it's so weird because, like, I think when you first hear about it, you're like, "Why is that such a problem?" And what's funny is so for anybody who doesn't know the context, I recently posted about this condition. It's called, retrograde cricopharyngeal dysfunction, RCPD for short, which is essentially a fancy way of saying, "I can't burp," or "I haven't been able to burp." My whole life,
Your
which,
whole life.
as a baby even, my mom, like, would try to burp me, and I couldn't burp as a baby, and I was very fussy as a baby
Well, I
because my
bet that was a nightmare.
yeah.
Whew.
Yeah,
Because everybody wants a good burp.
I know, and now that I've been able to, I understand how
The
important it is and
relief.
relieving it is. Um, but for whatever reason, it only started causing issues for me about 3 years ago. And I think part of it, and there's really limited research on it because it's a relatively new discovery within the ENT world, like within the last 6 years. But my understanding is, your stomach lining changes as you age. And so there's various factors within your digestive system that evolves as you get older. And for whatever reason, at a certain point 3 years ago, it just started to cause a lot of issues for me. And it was, on a daily basis. And I'm having trouble eating breakfast before I go to run. I'm having trouble drinking water. It feels like there's a huge lump in the back of my throat that at any given moment is going to like trigger my gag reflex. And even at certain points, I would kind of randomly start dry heaving on runs, which is very unpleasant. And
Gosh.
just again really inhibits the ability to eat and fuel properly, not only throughout the day, but specifically before runs, specifically in the mornings, it would be extra challenging. So yeah, that's kind of, I guess, just the broad overview of how it was affecting me starting probably in 2023.
Did you know your whole life that this was something that you suffered from, but it just like wasn't like front and center?
Yeah, I knew my whole life that I couldn't because, like, even in elementary school, I remember the kids in my class burping the
Yeah.
ABCs or whatever, and I
How
was
do you
like,
do that?
I can't do that. What the heck?" But it just didn't cause issues for me when I was
Yeah.
younger, and that's
Yeah.
the fun part of getting older, right? Is like
Yeah. Yay.
things get harder,
Gosh,
but
it's so frustrating though, because you come out on the other side of the stupid Achilles stuff,
Mhm,
and then this pops up like
mhm,
what, like 2 years later.
yeah, yeah.
Gosh.
And it sort of feels like an invisible injury, right? It's like this
Totally.
weird thing you have to explain, and it's not like a physical body part that's hurting, but it is extremely uncomfortable and inhibits you in a lot of different ways, specifically with the fueling. As we know, just how important it is to fuel as a runner when that's not
When you can't.
optimized. That alone is a huge issue. Forget about how uncomfortable you are trying to run now that you haven't fueled properly. That alone is a huge issue. But when I posted about it, it was really interesting. I got a lot of messages specifically from other runners who either like know that they have it and really struggle or have gotten the procedure and it has helped their running, or they haven't had a good response to the procedure, or they never knew about the condition before and now they're putting the pieces together of
Yeah.
maybe that's what's causing their symptoms or their issues. But it's this weird thing where it's, like, definitely kind of niche and uncommon, but also there's a decent amount of people who have it and who can relate to my experiences, struggling with it, specifically trying to train for a marathon has been a common theme that has come up from some of the messages I received.
Wow. So you have found a medical team and they're doing Botox in your neck to
Mhm,
make it so that the muscle does what it needs to do.
mhm. Yes, yes.
Wow.
So, um essentially that upper valve of the esophagus doesn't function properly in retrograde, meaning doesn't know how to open if something needs to come out, but it knows how to open if you're swallowing food. And by paralyzing that, it's a muscle, technically, by paralyzing partially that muscle, it's kind of acting like training wheels, teaching it how to relax a little bit and how to open. But I wouldn't say it's like this instant magic fix. It's kind of, this awkward thing that your body has to learn and figure out. And there's, I've personally had some side effects that come with, like, now I'm swallowing a lot more air. So that's causing a lot more
Sure.
pressure in my stomach because the esophagus is more open. And, without getting into the details, it's not just inject and you're magically better. It's kind of this whole process of retraining the muscle and adapting to that sort of new normal. And
Wow. Okay, this is a weird question, but can you throw up?
no,
You've never
or
thrown up?
I haven't. I'm thrown up since I was 5, so 25
What?
years. Yeah.
So what happens if you get the stomach bug? You just like feel really sick
Uh,
and you can't get it out of you, or you have to get it out the other
yeah,
way?
comes out the other way, I guess, but, which I definitely have had, of
I
course
hate
that
throwing up.
happens.
I hate it so much.
Well, what's interesting, this is, like, so probably more in the medical weeds than
I know,
most.
sorry everybody. But I think it's
No, but
interesting.
it is kind of interesting. This is actually a fun fact that has never been shared that
Okay.
I think people will enjoy this part of the fun fact,
Okay.
which is that I think because of my condition, like, it definitely probably makes throwing up harder, and it made the experience of throwing up when I was 5 years old very traumatic, to
Mm,
the point that I've also developed an extreme fear of throwing up and will do anything I can to avoid getting sick
hmm.
and have anxiety about getting sick. So,
Yes.
and that's actually very common with the RCPD condition as well. It's not always the case, but a lot of cases, the two go hand in hand, which is interesting. And it kind of makes sense. If that experience is like more violent and more difficult and happens when you're young, like it was very traumatizing and it's already, an uncomfortable thing for anybody. So if it was extra uncomfortable, like whatever, something about that like made me very fearful of getting sick. Jerry Schumacher, of course, the head coach of Bowerman, had a very long-standing streak of not throwing up. Like I think he hadn't thrown up in like 20 years or something as well, and he like really hates throwing up. So this is something that Jerry and I bonded over and started this little competition over, where my streak was a little bit longer than his streak, but we were both like 20 plus years of a streak. And so when I left the team, I left Bowerman, we made this pact, an agreement that if either of us ever threw up, we had to text the other person. And it's like, honestly, kind of, I love Jerry. He was such an amazing coach and just a great human, but not really the kind of person that you just would keep in touch with. Like, he's
Right,
so busy
right.
with coaching. Now he's at Oregon. Like, he's not the kind of person I'm going to like text and have a catch
Yeah.
up with.
Huh.
But this is kind of a fun way of like our little thing that kept us connected. So I would see him, run into him at track meets over the last few years. And it's like every time he'd be like, have you thrown up? No, like I haven't either. Okay, good. And then this year on Christmas Eve, or last year, I guess, on Christmas Eve, I'm like about to go to dinner with my family and I see Jerry Schumacher pop up on my phone, text message. And I'm like, oh no, I know what this is.
He
There's only
threw
one
up.
reason he'd be texting me.
Oh my gosh.
And his whole family had gotten the stomach bug in Hawaii or something. And he was like the last person to come down with it. And he's like, I think all it said was like, it happened or something.
25-year streak down the drain.
But then I had to celebrate, of course, because now I'm like
You're
very
winning.
much officially winning the competition. So
That is hilarious. I love that story. I just looked it up. It's called emetophobia, is the intense irrational fear of vomiting.
yes.
So this is a good transition in the conversation, friends, because we skipped over Miltenberg though, because after Boss, you went and worked with Coach Miltenberg again for a year and a half ish.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and how was that?
It was awesome. Yeah. At that
Mm.
point, I definitely valued having a team environment, but I just realized like there's so much going on with trying to figure out this health stuff. At the time, I didn't even know what the condition was called. I had been going to gastroenterologists for like a year doing all these different tests and nobody knew, because it's actually something that only ENTs know, but you don't think to go to an ENT because you think it's a gastro problem. So anyways, I'm dealing
Yeah.
with the health stuff. I'm kind of like figuring out my career stuff. I transitioned into a different job in the fall of 2024. Kind of a lot going on. And I'm like, as much as I love being a part of a team, like I just kind of need to take a step back from that team environment and just sort of figure out things for myself so that I can show up as the best version of myself for a team and for myself. And Coach Milt was such an obvious sort of move for me because he was willing to coach me remotely and he had been my college coach. So we had an established relationship. He had been a great mentor to me over the years throughout the Bowerman era and past that. And Emily Infeld was also at the time like looking to make a coaching move and wanted to work with him because she also was coached by him in college. So it felt like that would be, even though we weren't in the same city, like that would be a pseudo teammate as well. And I'm so
Yeah.
close to Emily. So that I think added to the appeal of the decision, is that we were both kind of like going to go on that journey together of working with him again, and made that switch like late fall of 2024.
And now you're with David Roche.
Yes.
So tell
Yes.
us about the transition and what are your sights set on for 2026, 2027, 2028, Vanessa, career-wise?
Yes. So I have a, a strong itch and desire to explore the roads, to explore the marathon. Also terrified, admittedly, just because it's such a big new challenge. But I think that's what makes it exciting. And again, I don't have any past self to compare myself to in the marathon. Whereas, like with the 5K, for example, it's really, really hard when you have a pretty high bar to compare yourself to from your past and you're not coming close to that. That just gets exhausting after some time of not, getting back to that point for whatever reason. And Coach Milt had already told me, like, explicitly, he has no experience in the marathon and just doesn't feel like that's his expertise, or he kind of politely was like, yeah, I don't really want to coach the marathon, which I totally understand. And he also was a college coach and there's a lot going on. So in light of that, kind of started exploring different road specific coaches. And I'm not necessarily done with the track forever, but really want to make a big push toward the roads. And in the future, I think that can only help my track stuff, especially the 10K. I think there's more there in the 10K on the track, but I want to use like a marathon strength base to get there, which I think, just admiring how well that has worked for Jess McLean, for example. Like
Mhm.
her track stuff has gotten so much stronger having like done marathons. I think Emily Sisson was the same way. Like her track stuff really turned a corner after she started marathoning. There's a lot of examples of runners that I look up to that, that has worked really well for them on the track. So I'm still open to doing track, but want to make this initial push toward the roads and the marathon. And I had a conversation with Jess, just, again, looking up to her as we all do, at just how amazing she is and how amazing she's doing. And so much of that, comes from her and the person and the athlete she is, but of course guided by a coach that helps enhance that. And that is also, I think, not to be overlooked. Like talent matters, but I also think your coach and your training matters as well. And respected a lot of what David had done with some of his other road athletes who are also on fire, Emily Venters and Amanda Vestreet,
Mhm.
Alio. And
Jeez.
yeah, just connected us and had some really great conversations with him, and just also felt like he was going to be able to work with, my life and my schedule and my health stuff. And honestly, one of the greatest things was he already knew about RCPD,
Of
and
course
that
he
alone
did.
was like, this is crazy. Like, I've never met anybody who knows about it, understands it. And I think having a coach who gets that and can work with that in training and figuring out fueling, especially with the marathon, is really huge too. So yeah, I was just excited about um having somebody in my corner who kind of understood me and could work with me. And also, again, this idea of wanting a piece of what's working for everybody else and make it work for
Mm.
myself as well. So, yeah, very, very excited about that new chapter.
So many good things from all that you just said. Like, one, I love that Coach Miltenberg was like, he wants the best for you.
Yeah.
And he was like, sounds like he was like, I don't think I'm that person, like for the marathon. And there's somebody that can really do this really well with you. And as soon as the pieces were coming together in my head as you were talking, I'm like, of course, David Roche is such a perfect person for this, not only because of all the other things he's good at, but the science part of what you're dealing with your medical condition. Like, he's going to dig into that and like geek out on all the research and figure it all out and do everything in his power to make sure you are getting what you need. So I'm so happy you decided to find a coach who that is part
Yeah.
of his brand. That is what
Oh,
he is known
totally.
for.
Totally. Yeah. I know. I'm super excited. I told him I want to go full science experiment mode just on myself in
Yeah,
general. Like, it's kind of also in conjunction with leaving my job last month is okay, now I actually have the time and bandwidth to go full science experiment mode with everything, not just with the medical condition, but with
sure.
training in general. And I feel really excited about that because it's been 4 years since I've been fully focused on running. And, it hasn't gone the way that I would have wanted it to go for the most part the last 4 years, and that's, like, totally okay, but that's why I think I feel like it's time to try something else, and, that's what they always say, right? The definition of insanity is, like, trying the same thing over and over and expecting different results, so, I'm just trying to try different things until I do get and again, it's not always just about the results, of course, it's about the process, blah, 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 but let's be real, like, we do want results, and that's
Yeah.
okay too.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, I'm just thinking through like the fueling part. I'm like, this sounds really dramatic, but like you like could you get a feeding tube to like get those calories in? I'm just like, what? Like how do you
Trust me, I have
have,
thought about that.
have you thought about it? I
Oh,
kind of felt
yeah.
stupid saying it.
No, no. I mean, when I first got the Botox done 2 years ago, and it was a really harrowing recovery that took, like, 2 or 3 months till I felt better because I was taking in so much air, and my stomach was filling up like a huge balloon, and I, like, couldn't
Ugh.
eat because of how, like, much in pain and full I was all the time, even though it was just air pretty much.
Yeah.
And genuinely, like, truly considered going and getting a feeding tube because I wasn't able to eat, and that's really scary.
Yeah.
Um, Luckily, it resolved to the point where I was actually almost 100% better symptom-wise and was
Oh,
able to cool and was feeling better, and I was burping and everything was good and functioning correctly until it kind of relapsed this past summer, and kind of I'm starting over a little bit again, but at least I have the hope of it worked really
you
well last
knew.
time. I
Yeah.
have to get through this uncomfortable period and then feel better, but during that uncomfortable phase, of course, it crosses my mind of, like, even just, like, could you imagine if instead of having to take gels in
Just
a race, you could just, like, inject it?
yeah.
And I'm like, could you imagine? I would totally do that, like,
Yeah.
I would just take a shot and just give it to myself if I
Give me
could
the
just, like,
calories.
inject yeah, just sugar, carbs,
Just give me the
whatever,
carbs.
into my
Yeah.
veins.
Yeah.
Like, that would be a game probably for a lot of people too, even just the gut challenges in
Totally.
general, love feeling, like, how great would
Yeah.
that be?
So it sounds like in that regard, you are needing to just work on like what is the like frequency that I get the injections and
Yeah.
like the amount so that it's like just the right amount that it doesn't take me so long to adjust.
Yes, exactly,
Gosh,
exactly.
that's challenging. Well, hopefully
Yeah.
David can help in that regard too. You're like David's like, "Did I also sign up to be your doctor? What's going on here?"
Oh, literally, and of course, his wife, is a trained physician, and
Yeah.
the funny connection is that she was actually at Stanford when I was at Stanford, working, I think fellowship, I wanna say,
Okay, Megan,
the
okay.
the big female healthy runner study going on at Stanford
Yeah.
that I was a participant in, kind of digging into the research of RED-S and fueling in female distance runners, so she was a big part of that, and just funny, full circle, 10 years later, here we are.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, I
Yeah.
think you're in great hands with them. I'm excited that they're a part of your team. You slid in here that you quit your job and
Yes.
we're going all in here. Are you still with Saucony? Yeah, you have a Saucony shirt
Yeah.
on.
Mhm.
So this is also what I wanted to talk about because I love that Saucony has like stood by your side through all of this, the ups and the downs. You've been with them for quite a while now. When did you sign with Saucony?
The beginning of 2024, so
Okay. 2 years.
2.5 years.
2.5
Mhm.
years. Okay.
Mhm.
And how's that going? I feel like Saucony, like, I don't see a lot of people sponsored by them anymore. They have a smaller team.
They're incredible. It is a relatively smaller athlete roster compared to some of the other brands. I mean, in part because they only really focus on distance running, so there's
Okay.
no other events outside of distance running, and it's, just a smaller company in general. I think they really take a different approach than a lot of the bigger brands to their athlete partnerships and sponsorships, where it is not a numbers game at all. It is
Mm,
relationship based. And, they allocate their budget based off of building these deeper, more meaningful athlete partnerships and relationships rather than spreading that across larger numbers. So I do think part of it is strategic, but part of it is also nature of being a smaller brand and smaller company, though they have been growing a lot the last 2 years, which has been really exciting to see, just from a product standpoint, but also the revenue standpoint. The internal team has been growing. They recently just hired a new CMO who, was actually an athlete at Stanford in the '90s,
oh my
so,
gosh.
that was, like, a really fun connection to have another fellow Stanford alum, join the team, and then she was actually at Nike for over 10 years, I think, so kind of a lot of interesting parallels in our shared history. But just in general, the brand I think is just very, very relationship focused. It feels like a family. The way that they write their contracts, the way that they interact with the athletes is so much less performance focused in the sense that that's not the value that you're bringing them. You're bringing them so much value outside of your results. And they, of course, want us to have great results. They want us to run fast. They have amazing product that they're always developing to try to help us reach our potential. I'm working closely with them on developing a new track spike. I do testing in the lab to see which shoe on the for the roads is going to be my most efficient shoe for the marathon. So performance is very much a core of who they are and what they want for their athletes, but they always remind me and other athletes that it is so secondary to what we bring to the table,
Mm.
as a partner, and, just kind of the role that we play in different community events that they're involved in. Or, I recently went to Chicago on my way home from USA's to talk to a high school team that they were partnering with Fleet Feet on, setting up an event for this high school team, and just how much they value all those other aspects of the partnership. I really appreciate, everybody within the team and like high level leadership at the company always kind of remind me and tell me that they're so grateful for everything I do for them and that I shouldn't, worry about disappointing
Hmm.
performances, which just goes like such a long way. And you think about how hard it is and how much pressure there is as an elite athlete, as a professional athlete, and every single athlete deals with the same feelings of like really wanting to perform for their sponsors, really wanting to, in a way, like prove that their sponsor made the right decision by betting on them. It's just kind of a part of being human is like you want to deliver results for those partners, and to be constantly reminded of the value that I bring to them outside of just results, I think ultimately is just more empowering and going to help me more, eventually have those breakthrough performances that I know I'm capable of just because I feel so supported outside of those performances.
Yeah. Sounds like no pressure there.
Yeah, yeah,
No
I mean,
pressure
there's
there.
still plenty of pressure because it's coming internally, but it's,
Internally.
like, nice to not have external pressure of, like, I'm gonna lose my contract because I, like, didn't place in the top 5 at USA's because I was dealing with something, and
Mm.
unfortunately, that is the reality of um, a lot of contract relationships in the sport. And that is, why we're kind of all conditioned to feel that way. And it's super hard.
Yeah, because when I said you'd been with Saucony for a while and they stuck with you for a long time, I actually was thinking you signed with them, like, 2022 even.
Uh,
And so, like, my brain, when I think of you, thinks Saucony, not Nike, but in reality, you were with Nike longer than Saucony.
yeah. I was with Nike for 5.5 years because I
Wow.
Yeah, I signed in the summer of 2018 after I graduated and was with Bowerman for 4.5 years, and then was with Nike for another full year after I left Bowerman, and I was still being coached by Shalane and, sort of pseudo Bowerman for that first year that I was in San Francisco.
So did you have an overlap of no contract then?
No, it was just about like a month, I would say, like
Oh.
January 2024. So contract with Nike expired December of 2023, and then January 2024 was in negotiations and kind of figuring out the next step, and then formally signed with Saucony February 2024. So really just a one month lapse.
Wait, and did I see somewhere that you serve as your own agent?
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
interesting. You don't see that often. Have you always?
No, I have always. Yeah. Yeah. Ever since college. Um, I almost signed with an agent coming out of college, and, like, actually, I think kind of the real reason why I didn't was I knew I was gonna sign with Bowerman. Like,
Mm,
I was so set on Bowerman, and I had
yeah.
an offer from Nike through Bowerman, and Jerry was kind of involved in, like, helping with that, and made it very clear that I think within the structure of a team, you're pretty well taken care of, and, like,
You're going to
if
get
you're
into
gonna
races with them.
yeah, yeah. So that kind of helped encourage me to go in that direction because I knew I would kind of be able to figure out everything by being on the team and having the team support. But then, by the time I was leaving Nike 5.5 years later, which is
Mm,
just still crazy, time really does fly. I felt like I knew a lot about the sport, and I'm comfortable with conducting myself in business situations. So, just kind of continued to stick with representing myself.
I mean, I love that you do that. It's like,
Yeah.
why can't I? Why can't I? That's so
Yeah.
good.
No. Yeah. No, I know. I think for me and my personality, it works really well. I think, some runners just don't want to have to think about anything, and
Yeah.
it's great that they can be taken care of so they can focus on what they want to focus on. But for me, I'm like, I like kind of knowing what's going on and having a hand on the steering wheel. And, I also get to keep an extra 15%,
Heck
which isn't a
yeah.
bad deal.
Yeah, for sure. Um, okay, so we'll wrap up here with end of podcast questions. Is there anything we should know that you're like racing soon or like that you're getting excited about?
Yeah, I mean, full transparency, there's nothing full that's been officially scheduled. I think in a dream world, like, I would love to do CIM in December, as
Fun.
my first marathon, but I
Gotta see how it
haven't
goes.
committed to anything, mostly because of the health stuff. And so, yeah, just trying to navigate what it could look like to put a race on the books with, the caveat that if I'm not at 100% health wise, I do not want to put myself in that situation. Like, health needs to come first. So that would be like my ideal scenario, I guess, and something that I still want to work toward, but really taking it day by day with figuring out, am I going to be at a place where I can properly fuel for a marathon by December? Like, I easily could be, but it's possible that I'm just not. In that case, maybe something early spring, or definitely some halves, because I just think that that's like a little bit easier
Mhm.
from a feeling perspective. You don't technically need to take anything during the race. It can be good, but it's just not as critical. I actually, like, kind of want to do the Indy half marathon
Fun.
in November, maybe, again, if I'm
Okay.
feeling good. So those are like the loose ideas. I'm not really one to, like, I guess, hide where I'm thinking.
Yeah.
No, I'm an open book there. It's just a matter of the health.
Well, you'll have to let me know if you do Indy because I will be in town for the race and we're throwing
Yes,
a
I
big like
remember. Yeah,
yeah.
you're involved with that race, right?
Yeah, well, I'm not going to be connected with the race this year, but I'm doing like I have some athletes I'm coaching that are running and then I throw like a big post-race party afterwards.
Oh,
Yeah,
fun.
like Emily, we interviewed
Yeah.
Emily last year for that.
Yes.
Um Yeah, because the race brought her in, and then she stayed an extra day and did the post race party with us, which was really, really fun. So, you'll have to
Okay,
keep me posted.
fingers crossed that I'll
Yeah.
see you
I mean, it's a
after.
fast course.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be great. It would be totally great. But like, I mean, I was doing well 2 weeks ago, and then this week there were 3 days where I couldn't even run. So
I'm so
it really
sorry.
is like,
You got to see what
well, you
happens.
gotta be able to train.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. That's so frustrating.
Oh,
Well, if you
thank
do
you.
show up, I feel like there's always good competition in the half,
Hmm.
like last year,
Yeah.
Carrie Elwood, Emma Grace
Yeah.
Hurley, Anne Marie
Yeah.
Blaney. Like there's always like a pretty good contingency of pros running the half. So that'll be exciting if you hopefully can make it
Yeah.
happen.
I know. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Well, what is something professionally or personally that you would like to do that you haven't done yet?
I guess on that topic, low hanging fruit there would be to run a marathon. And I think it's like something like I alluded to that is very exciting to me, but also scary. And that's kind of the point of challenging yourself in the
Mm-hmm.
sport is, pushing into those boundaries of the unknown and a little bit of fear. But yeah, just excited to try something completely different. So I would say that's top of the list is doing a marathon, not only finishing a marathon, but having a positive experience,
Yeah.
first one.
Get carbs in the body. We can do this. Come on, body.
I'm gonna start an injectable carbs
Yes.
break.
Yes. Seriously. Do you have any book recommendations?
One book that I recently read, kind of in light of, I just had a birthday at the end of July,
Happy
and
birthday.
thank you. And I always have a little bit of like an annual slight existential crisis around
Oh,
my birthday.
yes.
A lot of people do.
Yes.
And one book that I really enjoyed, kind of reading around that time is called Delusions by Cassie David. And I read her first book, which I really enjoyed, and this is her more recent book that she wrote. It's a collection of essays that she wrote just ahead of her 30th birthday. I was turning 31, but
Okay.
similar.
Yep.
She's Larry David's daughter.
Oh,
She's very funny, but in a very dry and dark way. So her
makes
essays
sense.
are kind of like this existentialist flavored humor about coming of age and, the different challenges that come with that, getting older, but also just existing in this crazy modern world of social media and, her angle of also sort of following in the footsteps of a very famous dad. And I just really enjoy kind of taking that angle on my, I guess, existential analysis of life, because if you can't take a humorous angle, then it can be a little bit scary sometimes.
Terrifying. Yeah.
So I just really enjoyed that. It's like a light, easy, fast read, collection of essays kind of thing. So yeah.
I didn't know that Larry David had a daughter that was a writer. That's exciting
Ah,
to me. I love some Curb Your Enthusiasm.
right? Yeah. She's like very kind of similar type of humor to
Okay.
him. And I discovered her when she wrote her first book a few years ago because I
Okay.
didn't know he had a daughter either.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, well, I think that a lot of people can relate to that feeling. I think I try to numb it out by just distracting myself, but it is
Yes.
something that you have to think about sometimes.
Totally, totally. Especially, in conjunction with a big transition of leaving a job and, changing coaches and moving to, there's a lot of change happening in
Oh yeah,
general.
did you move?
Not location wise, but
You're still in the Bay Area.
still in the Bay, spending a lot of time in Park City though as well
Okay.
for do training. Yeah.
Okay. Nice. If you could go to any concert tonight, who would you go see?
Oh my gosh. Oh, I really want to go to a Zara Larsson concert because I feel like she have you seen like the viral Lush Life dance that she does?
I
Oh my
haven't.
gosh, we have to look it up. It kind
Okay.
of blew up this last year and she was
Maybe I have. I
you
don't
know,
know.
she was popular, like, I don't know, 10 years ago. The Lush Life song has been around for a while, and then she totally blew up again this year because this dance went viral, and she'll bring someone on stage for the dance every concert, and
Fun.
usually it's, like, a younger kid, but they somehow, have a vetting process before so that they
Yeah.
know the
Uh-huh.
kid knows the dance and is, like, a
Right.
big and it is got like, it's all over. I don't know if you have TikTok, but it's probably on Instagram too. It's, like,
It's
all
fun.
over
Instagram too.
it's, like, all over TikTok where the cute little kid comes up and does the dance with her, and, I also like her music, but just kind of obsessed with that phenomenon, that's been
Okay, I
happening
love
this
that.
year, so I wanna go to see Zara Larson.
I like how you just, like, kind of knew I didn't have TikTok.
Well, honestly, only because you didn't know about the Lush Life
Yeah,
dance,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. I just,
if you
like
have TikTok, you would know the dance, like, you would have seen it because 'cause it's
right.
been really viral,
I mean, I
yeah.
feel like the dances come through on Instagram too, but definitely not quite as virally, and
Totally.
I think just, like, years ago, I was just like, "I can't add TikTok to my life." Like, I just
I get it.
can't do it, and yeah, I
Mm,
actually think sometimes I think about that, like, with like, on the business side of things, like, what could you know, like, I don't wanna ingest TikTok, but, like, if I did TikTok well, what am I missing out on brand-wise and
yeah.
just, like, pushing out my podcast and all those things, but I'm just like, I just don't think I can do it. I just don't think I
It
can do it.
No, it's too much to juggle all the platforms, truly.
All the platforms.
Yeah,
I need a Gen Zer to come in and just, like, run it for me or something.
there you go. There you go.
What is your last message to leave with the audience today?
Oh my gosh, I mean, genuinely, I just hope that story can inspire someone or help someone. I think I've taken an approach of being pretty open, vulnerable about every stage of my process, and it's not always pretty. And a lot of times the last few years, it's definitely not been very pretty. And yeah, I just hope that by in doing that, like somebody else can relate to it or find solace in it. And
Mm.
if I'm able to do that even for just one person, I feel like it's totally worth it to share my story in such an honest and vulnerable way. So, I just want to continue to do that in hopes that it reaches the right people.
Vanessa Fraser, thank you so much.
Thank you, Lindsay.